All right. Welcome everyone to another wonderful week of Power 10 Sports Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Gibb, and joining me this week, the always lovely Erin Polsey, the man that said Lamar Odom was the blueprint for off-court behavior in the NBA, John Sacco,
Yep.
and
Wild.
everyone's favorite 13-year-old Brady Gibb. And remember to tune in tomorrow whenever we have our guest Troy Phillips on to talk about NASCAR and the Daytona 500. Remember to leave us a like, a comment with some of your thoughts about what we talked about on the show today. Give us a subscribe if you want to. That really helps us out. Everything you guys do really helps us and lets us know that you're tuning in, you're enjoying what we're making, and that we should keep on making it and making more of it. We'll get right into it with the news, starting off with the first bit from this week, the Super Bowl Sunday. Tom Brady gets ring number 7, gets MVP number 4, I believe, or it's number 5.
This is 4.
Yeah. Number
MVP 4. Yep.
I think now at this point, everyone knows he's the greatest of all time. There's no at this point, there's no more denying it.
Oh yeah, everyone thought he was going to the Buccaneers to be Wizards Michael Jordan, but who knows? He might win 2 down in Tampa.
Yeah, he might. I think
really they're early favorites for next year, and they still return a lot of talent.
Yeah, that was one of the big things I think everyone saw. Tom Brady still looks really good. He wasn't just this guy that can only make those 5-yard dump passes to 5'8" white
he's
guys
he's no Drew Brees.
Yep.
And then also ESPN decides to be like, Patrick Mahomes almost makes this amazing throw. And
I think it was
we had discussed it before the show. If the guy makes the catch, it would have been probably one of the greatest catches we've seen in the past 10 years in the Super Bowl.
No, not one of the greatest catches. It would have been
one of the greatest throws.
One of the
greatest throws all the time, not just in the Super Bowl, not just in the playoffs. That man was horizontal
making a sidearm throw that makes it 40 yards? 30 yards. Yeah. 30 yards. And
it was dead on target. It went right through his hand. So that's not Patrick Mahomes.
Off his face.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's one of those ones where does it need to be brought up that he almost makes this great catch?
I think so.
Or almost makes this great pass. We'll say there's a difference. And I'm on the side of it doesn't need to be brought up because no matter how good the pass is, it wasn't caught. So it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
But that's not Patrick Mahomes' fault. Like, it's not his fault that his wide receiver literally went like this instead of going like this. Like, that's not his fault. So I think I think the point of showing the highlight is the fact that he was able to evade getting tackled and still fought all the way to the ground. Like, still cared, still was trying, and he did it with such finesse. So I understand the whole aspect of, like, why are we celebrating the guy who lost and why are we
talking about an incomplete pass?
Right, that was incomplete. But at the same time, like, Chiefs didn't look too hot.
Yeah, they did not look good on
even if he threw it away, it was a phenomenal effort in the backfield running around avoiding pressure. So I don't know, even if he threw it away, I'd post it, but it's still worth mentioning.
Yeah.
There wasn't very much the Chiefs did well that they
kicked real good.
You got to find a highlight of the Chiefs to put there somewhere, and
if that's the coolest thing you have, like, go for it.
Yeah, that's about all there was.
Pretty miserable that your best highlight is an incomplete pass, but
yeah. That being said, I still don't think it's the worst.
I think saying
we've seen in a Super Bowl in the past 10 years. That record still goes to the Rams 2 years ago. That was just a boring game to watch. Like, even if you were a New England fan, I'm betting that was a boring game to be like, oh, we put up 13. Cool.
How about Denver against Seattle, though? Would you say that's worse?
That one was tough to watch.
Because at least the Rams had a good defense about them. They held Tom Brady to 13
points.
What about, like, the Falcons? The fact that they just literally didn't show up in the second half of the game.
That was still that being said, it was still a good game.
That was still a really great Super Bowl start to finish.
But the team didn't look good. We're not talking about a good game. We're talking about teams that didn't look good. They did not show up in the second half. They literally all took a nap at halftime and never showed up in the second half.
Fair enough, yeah.
Like, they literally played 2 quarters of football. If we're talking about bad outings, that's pretty bad to only play half.
That's got to be up there for blowing a lead that big too is definitely another huge part of it. Is you're up, what was it, 20? It was 28-3, so you're up 25 and managed to still lose.
Yeah. Granted,
It's just really
they played
crazy to
against
think
In
Tom
about.
one
Brady.
quarter, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? 6 minutes left in the third?
Yeah,
Mhm.
6 in the third, and they managed to like tie the game back up, and then winning drive in like the last minute.
Yep.
Next bit of news, we got our 2021 Hall of Fame
Class.
or not candidates, this Hall of Fame winners.
Class.
Hall of Fame winner.
Hall of Fame class. Thank you.
Class.
Alan Facina, Drew Pearson, Bill Nunn, John Lynch, Tom Flores are all our non-modern era players. So we get shout out to them.
Alan's considered a modern era player.
Alan's considered a modern era? Huh.
Mm-hmm. Like
But John Lynch.
Yeah, John Lynch might be modern era.
Yeah, John Lynch might be considered modern era.
It depends.
When does the modern era begin? When's the official
You have to be retired for 5 years, and then you're considered modern era, and then it's so many years after you've been retired. That's when your modern era eligibility ends. I don't know how many years you have to be retired for it to end, but like, so the way they do Hall of Fame selections is the max you can have, I think, is 8 guys in a class.
Yeah.
And they have a max of how many modern era players you can take. And then you can take up to, I think, 2 people in like an ownership GM. And then I think you can take up to 2 people from the non-modern era. So that's how it kind of breaks down. That's why some years it's only 6 people, some years it's 8, but they do like to have even numbers for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, and it's an odd situation with Bill Nunn. Does he make it in as his career as a player, which is really good, or his career as a coach with Pittsburgh that was also really good?
I think he made it in as a coach.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he had him listed as officially.
When it comes to the Hall of Fame, like in the bust room, they have the player's name, and then they have every single team that they played for and like what position they were or whatever. So for him, it'll probably, like, if his coaching career is what made it into the Hall of Fame, his playing career probably won't really be on there. But like, it might be mentioned in some other books and things. But especially when it comes to merchandise and memorabilia, it'll only be listed as coach, because like, the Hall of Fame sells these big pamphlets that has the number of every single player and the name, and then it'll say like coach or like GM or whatever. So for like memorabilia purposes, I'm pretty sure it says a coach.
Yeah. And then the 3 big names from the Hall of Fame class would be Calvin Johnson, Megatron, Charles Woodson, and Peyton Manning. I know the Peyton Manning meeting, whenever they were discussing if he makes it or not, lasted 15 seconds, I think, what I saw in a report. And I'm like, it took that long to figure out if he was going to make it or not unanimously?
Honestly, they could have ended that with a text, say, like, he in? Yeah.
I think it was like all say aye, all say nay. And
yeah, that's what took up 15.
The nay, and that's why it took longer.
They were all voting, say, yay or nay, and one guy had to cough or sneeze or something.
And
that's why it took so long to say, sorry about that, yay.
Yeah.
Okay, right. 15 seconds.
But yeah, congrats to all of those guys. It's always an exciting time to see who makes it and the process in which it goes through to make it into the Hall of Fame. Next bit of news.
Sorry. I was going to say, it'll be exciting this year too, depending on COVID, because last year's class for the Hall of Fame never had their Hall of Fame weekend, never had their induction ceremony and everything. That was a bigger than average class to celebrate the centennial for the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see if they combine them and have like a long size induction this summer. It'd be really cool. Especially
I think that's
y'all are like 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah, that might be a possibility. Next bit of news, not as great. Marty Schottenheimer and Therese Paylor both worked with the Kansas City Chiefs, passed away this week. Schottenheimer was a coach for the Chiefs for years. He also coached in Cleveland and San Diego. Died of Alzheimer's. He will be missed by a lot of people. Therese Paylor was the NFL correspondent for Yahoo Sports. He was a voter for the Hall of Fame. Sadly died in his mid-30s unexpectedly.
Much too young, yes.
Yeah. Keep both those guys' families in your thoughts and prayers. It has got to be a tough time for any of them. But yeah, it's something that right after you have a losing Super Bowl, to have both those things happen, it's just not probably great for the city of Kansas City right now. But our next
none of us remember. Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah, you can go ahead, John.
None of us really remember him as a Browns coach. That was the 80s, far before our time. But I remember playing Madden 7 and Marty Schottenheimer. Whenever I would do a new career and new coach on the franchise mode, his playbook was the one I used. So I remember him with some phenomenal San Diego teams with LaDainian Tomlinson, one of my favorite running backs of all time, and just a really underrated coach, one of a handful to reach 200 wins.
Yeah.
And a man who dedicated a lot of his life to football. Like he coached until he wasn't mentally able to anymore. Which is
he was a coach for 30 years and a player before that.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk about someone who lives and breathes football, you talk about Marty Schottenheimer.
Absolutely.
One of the great offensive minds.
Our next bit of news, J.J. Watt was officially released from the Houston Texans. It was mutually decided on by the team. And this is a weird situation that Deshaun has been asking for a trade in all of this for weeks now. Nothing happens. And out of the blue, we find out J.J. Watt asks to leave, and they're like, all right, cool, we'll release you.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see also how the media handles it, because I know a lot of guys, Brett Favre is the first one that's like sticks out in my mind. He went in on Deshaun Watson saying he was a kid and he didn't know the league and the way that men handle the business side of it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yet so far, it's been 24 hours now. I haven't heard one thing like that mentioned about J.J. Watt. So the comparison between the two, the two, it's pretty interesting to see how the Texans have handled it all.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see where JJ might go. Personally, I think that he's going to end up going and joining his brothers in Pittsburgh. I think that's the clear option. TJ wants him there. I think he's a good fit in Pittsburgh.
The Steelers have $6 in cap space.
Yeah, they have no money is the issue.
Yeah. I think he might end up in Green Bay. He's been a Wisconsin man for forever. Has like his house is in Wisconsin. He lives in Wisconsin 90% of the time. And he actually has a decent shot of winning a Super Bowl if he goes and joins the Packers. So I think that's a team.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by that one at all.
Mm-hmm. I think the Packers are also my front runner to sign him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Tampa Bay either. Coming off their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A good defense gets better.
True.
I think he goes to the Browns.
I like your thinking, Brady.
I'm not sure.
The Browns are the Bills. They're the Browns.
I think that's underrated because they do have the cap space and they do have a Wisconsin legend who might have some sway there.
Yeah. I did see one that I don't think anyone's going to talk about. Jacksonville. They have a ton of money available. You're dealing with a very young team right now in Jacksonville. So having a veteran like Watt on your defense, even though he may not be the best player there, just based off of recent performances, it could just be recent issues.
Jacksonville will be a very young
Jacksonville
team.
has a lot of money to give up. They kind of need some veteran leadership in the locker room. Urban Meyer really likes his Big Ten guys. This is his first year, but I do think that being in the Big Ten in recent years, it's kind of like, all right, well, I know how this team runs and how Wisconsin plays. JJ was under that system for years. I know I can help coach him this way and it'll work out.
Yeah.
But it'll be exciting to see where he ends up. And
underrated, I think, San Diego.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, that's one I thought about too.
Could you imagine that defense with Bosa and Watt?
One on one side, one on the other.
Yep.
That'd be scary.
I think the same with Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt. That would be frightening.
See, I almost said San Fran, where you're getting the other Bosa and
the
Watt.
other Bosa, yep.
Listen, any Bosa and a Watt together, honestly, like let's throw Nick Bosa and TJ Watt together. Like I don't care what the category is, but a Bosa and a Watt, that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Next bit of news, MLB makes an announcement that they're deadening balls again, just proving to everybody that they really don't know how to do anything right.
How out of touch they are with their fan base.
What puts people in the seats? Home runs. What are we going to do? We're going to make it harder to hit home runs.
Yeah, like the biggest fan base the MLB had was during the like steroid era. The like home run chase was such a big deal. That's when everybody would go to games. So I don't know if they're just trying to get away from that trying to limit their home runs because then people might call for steroid testing. I have no clue, but to me it's silly. Like, home runs are the exciting part.
Yeah,
they really are. No one wants to see a 1-0. Perfect. That Reds Braves series where the first game was 1-0 after 13, and then the other game was 1-0 after like 6 innings until they blew it open. It was just the most boring series to watch.
Like, someone who's really into pitching, that's their series. They'd love that. But like, I would argue the average baseball fan doesn't know all the in-depth stuff about pitching, so they don't really care about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that it's going to sound weird, the reason that Americans as a whole, I think, don't watch soccer as much or don't watch hockey as much is there are low-scoring games that end 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1 in a lot of cases. I mean, I know I've been like checking hockey scores lately, and like Columbus Crew's playing games where it's like 5-6 or like 4-6, and I'm like, okay, they're actually putting up goals. But that's a lot of the reasons I hear from people. I don't want to watch soccer. It's boring and it ends 1-0 or ends 0-0. And I'm like, there are baseball games happening now, especially after this happening, that could lower the score. And it's like, well, then we should see baseball be getting lower. Or if it stays the same.
I think it's time for the MLS to take over for the MLB as one of the big four.
I think
even the big three.
The NHL first.
The NHL first, you think?
Yeah, just because the argument that like Gib was saying with low scoring games, I think it's more along like, I think the NHL fan base is growing more because their games may be longer, but they're action packed the whole time. People are getting slammed up against the wall.
Hockey
like
fights.
Like with soccer
the aggressiveness
and baseball,
of it.
Their games or matches are like 3 hours long. Like, that stuff's just too long to have one goal. One run. Like, we live in a society nowadays where people want instant results. Like, we do. That's why there's Google. That's why there's
It says a lot about society.
People just they read the headlines of articles, not the whole article. Like, that's just how people are. So they don't want to sit and watch a game for 3 hours when, you know, they can just turn on the TV later and watch the cool highlights for 5 minutes. And it's 2 highlights, 1 home run and 1 great catch. Like, that's, I don't know, that's just kind of how I see it. But
And Brady, as somebody that's playing baseball right now, do you think that, like, with this happening, is it kind of a deterrent as, oh man, baseball's a bit less fun now, or because you're a pitcher, you're like, oh man,
okay, well,
this seems better because I'll get home runs off less?
I have an opinion. So I have my one friend, huge guy, 14, 13 years old, like 6 foot something, and you know the middle school basketball court, right?
Yeah,
he went on field too, and he might have put 2 of them on the back shed of that basketball court. That was my most entertaining part of that season, was just watching that kid hit home runs. I mean,
don't know the like distance from the
that's got to be MLB size, right?
Yeah, that you're
talking the shed by the tennis courts by the water fountain there?
No, he's talking
right there, yeah.
Okay.
Like, that's like almost a solid football field from the actual fence of the outfield to that shed.
Yeah,
like,
but
the kid's also
that's maybe 300.
Yeah, you're talking about a 14-year-old that is 6 foot tall. That it still has all of probably another 6-7 years of growing.
Good for him.
Which personally, I'm playing 15U with him this year, and we're playing on high school fields, and I personally want to see him hit one over a high school field. That might just be the most entertaining part of that season, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, but as a pitcher, is it something you're like, all right, dead balls might be a good thing because it means that your stat line doesn't show as many home runs, even though they could have had the capacity to do it? Is it now there's an asterisk on some of the hits because they got deadened?
Oh, I don't let up home runs. I strike out everyone. But
oh, dang.
I don't.
Yeah, he said deaden those balls all you want. Or like,
Well, mostly
I get to watch Brady pitch, and he has a great job.
No, but personally, I don't think I've ever let up 1 home run. Maybe 2. Maybe whenever I was
wood, my dude. Go knock on wood. You're jinxing right now.
I got you.
Okay, but I don't think I ever have.
think
Like
so.
maybe once. I was in practice. I might
Somebody
have let
hit a
one
deep
up in
3 on you,
practice.
but I don't think anyone's ever hit a home run.
No,
This may be a really
but
stupid question, but like deadening the ball doesn't change anything about the weight of the ball, right? It
Yeah,
just changes the way it's made on the
yeah.
It's
inside.
like
so
the
it doesn't
material.
really
the
affect
density, right?
Yeah.
right. Like
Yes.
it won't really affect a way a pitcher pitches or the way
No.
a ball moves on a pitch. Like it just is gonna affect
I wouldn't think
It
so.
affects the impact off the bat.
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I thought. Because I was like, if it really affects the velocity of a ball or anything like that, that's going to affect the way a pitcher throws too. So it'll be interesting to watch that. But if it's just the impact.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And our last bit of news for today, Chris Doyle, former Iowa coach, gets hired by Jacksonville and within hours is fired by Jacksonville. This all comes about because of reports from different organizations saying that he bullied players and said different comments to players whenever he was at Iowa that Jacksonville as an organization didn't want to be a part of. Urban Meyer already came out last night and was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know these things at the time of his hiring. We already let him go. I believe he's already given an apology out, but it's one of those ones where it's just not enough right now.
To me, it was really interesting because a few minutes after he was hired, they made a statement saying, like, we vet all of our coaches and we look at the background of everyone to see what environment they're bringing to our community. Like, if you really vet your coach that well, you know that he got fired from Iowa for racist, sexist remarks.
Yeah.
Like, so how much did you really vet your coach, or did you just let somebody hire their friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about that. They let him go. I think it's probably the right thing, but yeah.
Yeah, they still did the right thing.
How could you not know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I think they thought, we'll hire him. There is this issue, but maybe people look past it. And I think they definitely thought people were going to be like, oh, well, they'll look past it. It was a long time ago. And it's like, no, it wasn't, for one. And two, no, some of the stuff he said was really off color. And I'm guessing I heard several groups spoke out as soon as it happened. We're like,
especially with Jacksonville, this is a franchise that has been just under fire, especially in the last couple of years for player association violations. You know, the whole deal 2 years ago with Jalen Ramsey and those optional workouts and making teams schedule appointments with the team doctor instead of going to see their own physicians for injuries.
Yep. Or even the recent controversies that Urban Meyer's gone through. And with, you know, the Zach Smith situation and his leadership style. So they're already under the microscope more. This is why you check a reference when you hire somebody. So I don't know why they just make like 2 phone calls to Iowa.
Like some former players have.
Yeah, like their football organization in general. They would they would find out why he was let go.
I mean, just 2 years ago, the NFLPA had to put out a statement and said, hey, Jacksonville sucks as a franchise with their players. You might want to think about that before signing there. And that was unprecedented for the Players Association to say, do not sign with this team. They do not care about you.
Yeah.
So when you hire a coach like that, it's good to cut ties as soon as possible. They should have cut them sooner.
They never should have been ties in the first place.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to bring the man in for an interview, cool. But like check a reference before you offer the man a job. If you offer him the job and he accepts the job, that means you also went through contract negotiations at that point. And he had signed a contract. So it's not like you didn't have a couple weeks to like back check. So I don't know. Just isn't a good look for anybody.
Yeah, not a great look for him. But hopefully Jacksonville can try and make it through the rest of the season without an issue.
Hopefully.
Let's hope they can make it through a season, because there can only be one dumpster fire in a division, and you can't have Houston and Jacksonville be terrible in the AFC South.
I don't know. The AFC South might be the new NFC East.
I was just about to say, look, the NFC East.
No, the Colts are fine. Don't say anything. Carson Wentz is not coming there.
Sam Darnold
so
is not coming there.
They did say they were going to get rid of him by the end of the week.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they said they were going to get rid of Carson Wentz by the end of the week on Sunday, and we still haven't seen him go anywhere yet.
Maybe
did we mention any of that last week?
7 days. So like
no, it happened
where the Eagles are trying to hold out for a first-round pick, and when they say that, the other teams go click. Say, hey, Carson Wentz, how much do you want? We're thinking somewhere in the first to second. Click. I think
how much is his contract worth? $40 million, and they just hang up.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, it's not a good contract. He's on the decline.
It's not great.
Injury prone. It's going to be hard to find a trade partner. I think a second might be overpaying, because if you look around the league, DeAndre Hopkins went for 1 second.
Yeah.
And I know quarterback and receiver aren't totally comparable, but
one of the best receivers in the league versus a backup quarterback.
Would any rational organization take a second for one of the best receivers in the league? Or is that a Houston's not smart and took a washed-up running back in the second?
Okay.
Yeah.
Valid argument.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's all we have for our show today. Remember to tune in tomorrow whenever we have Troy Phillips on for the Daytona 500. It'll be a lot of fun. None of us know anything about NASCAR, I think, so you'll get to see us kind of struggle through this.
They turn left.
They turn left is about all we know.
They drive fast.
Remember to give us a like. Give us a comment with some of your thoughts about what we talked about today. Anything we may have missed that we could bring up on next week's show. Give us a subscribe. That helps us out in knowing that we are making content and you guys are wanting to come back to it every week. Go follow our Facebook and Twitter pages. And this is us officially reaching out. If you are a high school athlete or coach or college athlete or coach and you want to reach out to us and appear on a show, we are currently booked out till April, but we'd love to have you on and hear some of your expertise that you might have.
We're always looking for guests, and we always have something to talk about.
Yeah. We'll find something that you'll love.
Guests in 1 week, you know?
Yeah.
We don't have any rules, so.
Yeah. But yeah, just reach out to us via Twitter or via Facebook. Send us a DM. This is our open invitation to anybody. If you want to appear on our show, we'll go through the process and see if you'll be a right fit. And if you are, what we'll talk about with you and make sure you have a ton of fun like we do every single week. But that's our show, and thank you for tuning in.